Ms. Moss. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. Your last name pronounced for me? Moss?
Morose.
Morose. Morose. Morose. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
How are things going?
Good.
Okay, all right, good. I just got off the video with them, so I was thinking if nobody showed for yours, we would just I was gonna upload that and send it to you, but we'll see
Okay.
what happens. So we'll see how that goes. It is 6 o'clock, and I am going to get started.
Okay.
The first thing that I like to do, of course, I'm Ruby Bell. I'm Director for Teacher Education and Licensure. This is what, October, so I hope that your student teaching intern has had his or her visit, initial observation from the professor, because we are supposed to do in October, one in November, and one in December. So I hope that has happened for you. And of course, the students were required to submit their task. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Students were required to submit their task 2 and task 3.
Yes.
Okay, and of course we, task 1 was submitted early on, and of course the professors were to evaluate those. So now we're up for task 4, and task 4 is due to the professor by November the 7th and ready to be uploaded to PPAT by November 4th. And I'm sure the student and maybe the professor has shared with you that our students are required to complete the PPAT for state purposes.
Yes, ma'am.
And so we are working hard to make sure that they do a fairly decent job. And if at any point in time that you could provide some assistance, it's okay with us. We don't mind at all.
Okay.
A couple of things we'll share today after talking with an ETS representative when I get to the part about reflect. It's going to be kind of tough for me. I don't know what is happening with that. So I just want to review task 4 with you today and answer any questions just so that you'll have an idea. We kind of missed task 2 and task 3, but it's over and done with now. So we'll just look at task 4.
Okay.
And of course, task 4 is implementing and analyzing instruction to promote student learning. This is a lot, but as a teacher, this is what we do.
Yes.
We implement, and we analyze, and we allow the assessments that we provide for our class to guide the teaching that we do in the classroom in order to be able to do. So, bear with me. I don't know what this is, just a copy, and sometimes it jumps further than where I need to be. So the artifacts that are required for the student to submit with task 4 is representative pages of space lesson. Our students have a lesson plan that is extremely long, but it is long simply because of the fact that we had rather than be able to complete an extensive lesson plan and go into a school system that doesn't require it, they go into a place where it is required and they have no idea what you're talking about.
Yes, ma'am.
So the and we know, you know, as a teacher, standards-based, whatever the teacher standards are for the state of North Carolina is what we use in that lesson plan. They have to do can do up to 2 pages, and then they have baseline data for the whole class. They have to select a focus. They have to select 2 students. Focus 1 and focus 2. And they have to upload representative baseline data for the whole class to students. Of course, they want this in the form of graphic representation. Here's Excuse me, someone's on an iPhone and your name is not showing up, so can I get that name? Okay. And also they have to provide student work samples for the 2 students. And also, at this point in time, I'm sure the student has already told you, they are required to be a 15-minute video.
Yeah.
It can be it's 15 minutes entirely. Excuse me, there's some background noise somewhere. Hello?
Now that that vote is scheduled for Thursday, the White House is digging.
I don't know what's going on.
The resolution in the House appears to matching costume.
Maybe we can get through this. I don't know how they're not hearing me.
Halloween is a night where gangs of street toughs roam the sidewalks looking to rough up children and take their candy.
Street toughs.
Okay. So everybody's muted. So if you have to unmute and ask me the questions. 15-minute video, it can be full 15 minutes or 3 5-minute segments, unedited. The written commentary that was initially done and evaluated by the professor was this piece, the contextual information. As most of you know, I'm not going over that. It was just basically classroom, a little more than the classroom demographics, but that's what it really amounted to. So 4.0, so we go into 4.1.1. 4.1.1, goals and student background. And the students have to respond to the guiding prompts. And it's very simply, what are the learning goals and the standards that were identified, and explain how they are appropriate for the lesson for the learning needs of the student. So why did you select this standard? Of course, we know sometimes there's a pacing guide, and it's the next sequence in whatever, in the topic that has to be taught. But give a little more than that, I'm thinking. And then what whole class data did you use to establish the baseline to measure student growth? Was that based on a previous assessment that was given, or post-assessment to know which way to go? But anyway, work with your students to make sure that they have established the correct, use the appropriate, I guess, assessment or form to establish the baseline data in order to measure student growth. And how did the students' prior knowledge, I tried to tell them in the last session that make sure you always evaluate the student prior knowledge, because that helps you to develop the lesson that you need to teach. If all your students already know that all the mountains have peaks, well, you can mention that, but let's not dwell on that, but go on, because that helps us to determine where do we go with the lesson. Whatever the prior knowledge is, utilize it in order to plan the lesson. And I don't want to go through this because you're all teachers and you already know this, but I just want you to see what the students have to go through. Then it's 4.1.2, the instructional strategies. Content language, how's it used? You're going to use that in order to teach your lesson, and then they have to provide a rationale. How do they plan to engage the student in critical thinking, and how they're going to utilize questioning skills to promote student learning? And of course, they need to provide a rationale for that. And also, it asks that they would integrate literacy into the content of whatever it is they're teaching. So we just had a comment about health and physical education, and the student said, well, it's PE. They should be active and moving. Yes, it is, but you're going to have to provide some literacy into that. If that's all you're going to do is move, you're going to have to stop them somewhere for some literacy. So maybe since it's health and physical ed, maybe doing the health piece of it, then they can provide the literacy. Lesson activities, 4.1.3, it says describe the activity or activities that are the main focus of the lesson, and explain how you design the activities to anticipate and address student learning needs. That's a deep dive. And how the Describe how you will monitor the student learning during the course of the lesson. And what student work samples will you require the student to submit as part of the assessment of the student learning resulting from the lesson, okay? And it says the work can be created either during or after the lesson, and how will these responses be integrated into the lesson plan? And then, of course, the student has to provide a rationale for the choice of the work sample that they selected. Step 2, 421, instructional strategies. How did you use the academic content language to advance the understanding of the concept being taught in the lesson? Cite examples from the video. All of these, I think, will need the student to cite examples from the video. How did you engage the students in critical thinking? How did you use questioning skills to promote learning? And how did you use literacy, infuse literacy into the content? And of course, they need to make sure, what I told them was, it's 15 minutes, but what they need to focus on is making sure that everything that they ask you to cite in the video, that you make sure that you have taught that piece in that video lesson. 421. 422 is interacting with the students. How did you monitor student learning while teaching the lesson? And in what ways did evidence of learning guide your instructional decision making while teaching the lesson? Cite examples from the video. How did you provide feedback? Cite examples from the video. And how did you use verbal and nonverbal communication techniques to foster student learning? And of course, they must cite examples from the video. Classroom management is 423. What classroom management strategies did you use during the lesson? Cite examples or strategies from the video. And in what ways did the strategies engage students and promote a positive learning environment? Cite examples from the video. I just read through those just so that you will have a brief insight as to what's expected of those students. Of course, we went over these in detail with them a few minutes ago during their video conference. But as I said, your teachers, you already understand this. So I just wanted you to just have a brief view of what they are required to do. Understanding the two focus students. They have to, of course, select 2 students, and they are to identify the strengths and the challenges for each one of those students, and to tell what type of data did they use to establish the baseline to measure the students' growth, and what evidence did they utilize in order to collect or show the students' progress. That's for both students. Now, if you notice, your students have, of course, lesson plans, and within that lesson plan, there are assessment activities, and they also have an assessment plan that they should be completing for you. So they can use that information there. That's why we ask them to do it. So it's not hard, and we're trying to pull everything together so it kind of meshes, and that they're not necessarily doing double work. It's there for them if they can just pull it out from the lesson plan and the assessment plan. Okay, then reflection, 422. Based on the baseline data and the student work samples, what extent did each of the 2 focus students achieve the learning goals of the lesson? And how did your analysis of that baseline data and student work samples guide the planning for future lessons? That's what we do. We teach, we evaluate, we restructure what we need to do in order to develop lesson plans that will make give us a better understanding and help our students to remain engaged and stay focused on what we're teaching, and to go back and reteach if we have to. So it just guides, as we evaluate, it just guides our teaching and our planning. And of course, the video, as we said, there's a 15-minute video. Could be an entire 15 minutes. Could be 3 5-minute segments, unedited, as long as it is meeting the needs of those requirements when they say cite from the video. Excuse me. Okay. And so I think that's that. But what I wanted to show you, if you want to, you have time, you can, let me see if I can find it here. All the way back. Okay. It's not letting me. So let me see if I can find for you here. We have what we call a library of examples. If for task 4, if you're interested in just looking, you can, for example, if you have questions about any of the text boxes, the activities or the task, you may look at these examples and maybe read over them for the different areas if you so desire. But they are there for your utilization, for your preview, if you like to gain a better understanding of what is required of the student. I also wanted to share with you for the task 4 is also a reflection piece. And we were told to share with the students as they are reflecting that they should think about who they are becoming and what do they need to do? What do they need to do more of? What do they need to do less of? What could they have done better? Or what could they have done differently in order to reflect? These are the kinds of questions that they need to ask themselves after the lesson has been taught. Another thing that we talked about was different types of classroom technologies. Students sometimes feel that they need to use Padlet or those response clickers and all those other activities, technology, instructional technology, games. Not necessarily so. We want them to know that the electronic whiteboard is also a form of classroom technology. The flipped learning is also that. Your desktop, even the laptop, could be utilized. And want to go fast for me today. Projectors, video conferencing classroom technologies, of course, could be utilized. Mobile learning. The television, if it's used correctly, of course. Current events in the country, and if that's what the students have been assigned, then hey. And educational, instructional DVDs or videos, of course. And computer networking. I've sent them this article so they can have some ideas about some of the things that can be used. Distance learning, as we are doing. And virtual field trips. It says word processing applications. And of course, I don't know if any of you have 3D printing in your schools, but that's also one. So just wanted students to know that it didn't always have to be some type of instructional technology game or activity that had to be utilized. Truly, I think it's important if there's a whiteboard or smart board and there is an activity that will enhance your lesson, use it. It's always good to do that. We had an example of a teacher teaching a lesson using PowerPoints, and the next day she had another activity which utilized technology, and the students were more engaged doing the technology piece because it was part of the inventory. Most of the students indicated that they had an interest in technology, so when that happened, they were more engaged than just watching the PowerPoint presentation. So those are the kinds of things that we kind of look for from the students. Do you have, this has been kind of quick, do you have questions about student teaching since this is our first time meeting? I want you to know that the students must submit to us as a form of documentation 4 lesson plans of their choice, their choosing, 4 assessment plans. They're also required to do a research paper, which most of them should have already completed. And some of them are required to do an innovation plan if they have not already done so. Excuse me. So the innovation plan and an innovation plan is a collaborative effort to show leadership within that school. We ask them to think of a project that relates to some need of that school and then develop it. And hopefully it's something that will be beneficial for the school and the students to continue to utilize if at all possible. We asked them to look at the teacher working conditions survey, the school improvement plan, test data, and sit down with you as the clinical teacher, the principal, and once y'all have discussed what you think would be a good idea, and then develop it. As I said, some of the students have already developed those. We try to work on those in the leadership development class and get those kind of finished up before they go out to student teach, but sometimes we miss them because they all don't take all of the classes that we require, because some students are not traditional and some are non-traditional, so they don't have to take the same classes. Let's see. And of course, the evaluation. We submit their evaluation, their summative evaluation with their documents that are submitted to NCDPI for licensure. That the plan, the evaluation, the LEA, IHE certification of capacity. So make sure that you have submitted to Ms. Lynn Sutton all of your information. She has your email address, your personal address, and a phone number that we might be able to contact you with. If you have not done so, you need to email me so that I can have her to send you that information. Do any of you have any questions? Does anybody have any questions? No?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Are there any, nothing? You don't have
I have
any?
a question.
Okay.
Can you repeat who is, or where do we need to send what information to, our contact information?
L Sutton,
Else, okay.
L Sutton at umo.edu. You probably already have an email from her. If you can go back and look for it.
Right. And it's our name. I'm sorry, I missed the first like 2 minutes. It's our name and our phone numbers.
And let me just have her to, who is your student teacher?
Samantha Kroon.
Okay. You have your email address?
Say that again.
Let me give you my email address and then you send me yours. How about that? And then I can get Lynn to send you that information. Are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Arbell at Ruby Bell. Arbell
Okay.
at UMO.
UMO.
EDU.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome, ma'am.
Hello. Can you
Yes,
hear me?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm sorry I'm late. I'm Helen Brennan. I'm Emily Woodward's teacher.
Okay.
I'm so sorry to be late. It slipped.
I know how that is. What we did, we just went over, I just wanted to share with everybody task 4, because that's where we are now with our students. I'm going to try to send this, the video to you since you missed it, because we've gone through that now. And we ask that as the students reflect with task 4, that they think about what they are becoming was one of the important things that we talked about. What do they need to do more of? What do they think that they need to do less of? What can they do to be better? Or what should they do differently than what they did before? And that will help with this task. And I also shared, if you can see, some forms of instructional technology, because a lot of times they feel like they have to use all of those little, all those instructional technology, games and activities, clickers and Padlet and those kinds of things, but they don't have to. And I just wanted to share a list of things that, other things that they could use. And I shared this with them prior to coming on with you. Electronic whiteboards, of course, and we know that a lot of times there are games and activities that go along with those, which are really good for the lessons. Flipped learning, desktops and laptops are also considered. Projectors, video conferencing and classroom technologies, and we can read about those. Mobile learning is another one. Of course, we have the television, computer networking, and we said distance learning. And I'm not reading those because I can send that link to this whenever I send you the video. Virtual field trips, we know about those. And a lot of times kids can't get out on their with their parents to go, so the field trips are really good. Word processing, of course, applications, and 3D printing. I think that was the last one in this list, but I'm sure there are many, many, many more. And this, of course, came from modern consumers types of classroom technology. So I also indicated that the final task 4, yay, I'm so glad, bless their hearts. Jeez. It's due to the professor November 7th. Again, it is due to ETS November 14th. They have not heard back from test 2 or 3. And of course, they have to pass as required by the state. So it's a lot on them, but it's what you do. It's what you do. Everything that they do for those tasks is what you do as a teacher. So
A lot like national boards.
sort of like national boards. Exactly. So any other questions?
Would calculators be considered instructional technology?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I would think so. Yes. And with the video, I told them that ETS has a permission form. They need to download it and get it signed for all the students. It does not have to be submitted. I would recommend that they keep them. You don't need to submit 25 or 30 to ETS. They don't want that. But I do recommend that students hang on to those. Most school systems already take those permission forms anyway. So we have those, and I know that if you use the ETS ones as well, that student must, and if you remind them to make sure they get signed, and then that they are all kept as part of their documentation. And the question was asked, well, when I do my video, do I video me or do I video the students? I would suggest that the camera is placed in a corner so that you can get a good picture of the student as well as some of the students. You can't get them all, I don't think, but you be the best judge as maybe where that camera needs to be placed in order to make sure you get the greatest number of students along with the professor, with the student teacher. We have also told them that if something happens, don't stop the video because that's part of the learning process. Correct it and keep it moving.
It's the real world.
It's the real world. There you go. It's the real world.
Is it okay for them to, like if they're videoing within a small group, for them to carry the camera with them as they're working in a small group?
If it's not going to be too choppy, if they're in a small group, that'll be fine.
Okay.
And so when she's doing, we've already discussed what she's going to do. And when she's doing that, we'll be videoing. Of course, you want to also see, if I'm correct, you want to see the children using a form of technology in her video.
Because they have to reference that.
Okay.
So they have to go back to the video. If you notice in my video, we use the electronic whiteboard in order to da-da-da-da-da-da. So we ought to be able to see if somebody maybe could pan to that whiteboard and see the activity and then go back to the student.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see.
Our school is we have a one-to-one with Chromebooks, and her activity was going to incorporate the Chromebooks.
Okay. Okay, and that'll be easy to see.
Yeah.
And it might be that if there's a specific activity, if you can get a close-up of that and then back it up or whatever, if it's
Okay.
worth that. You don't
Okay.
want to lose all your time, but you know, that might be helpful.
Okay.
Thank you for that. We appreciate it. We know it's a lot. It's a lot on you. It's a lot on the students. But we do appreciate your help with them.
I have a
Sometimes they do
question.
feel overwhelmed. Yes, ma'am.
One of my students' parents denied permission for them to
Okay.
work with her. So
Okay.
does she need to cite that somewhere in her paper so there's, you know, why there's a discrepancy between the number of student samples and the number of students in my class?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And you know that student won't be in that class that day, right?
I will send her to another kindergarten classroom.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? You have my email, arbell@umo.edu, and L Sutton, SUTTON, @umo.edu. If you have questions, comments, or any concerns for us, we'll be more than happy to answer back. I will probably have another video conference before we go home for Thanksgiving, and another one if you feel like you need it. So I will send that information out to you. Okay, and I will try to maybe, I'm going to follow this one up with a with an email. Send video, and I'm going to follow this up with an email. So I think that will help. Maybe I can get it out tomorrow, if at all possible. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to make sure I have everybody. Let me see. Hello, Dr. Potter. How are you? She's no camera on. Okay. All right. Anything else?
Sounds great.
All right, ladies. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed. Thank you so much for everything that you do. Again, if you need us, just send us an email or give us a call.
All right. Apologize for getting off on so late.
That's okay. I'm going to send that video to you if I can get it downloaded like it should be. So, but I'll send it.
Have a great week, y'all.
Same to you. Same to you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.